All right. Welcome to the 108th episode of the Henry George Daily Devotional. We continue reading Progress in Poverty and Inquiry into the Cause of Industrial Depressions and Increase of Want with Increase of Wealth. The Remedy, published in 1879, written by Henry George. We are in the final leg here. We are in Book 10. I don't even know how many books there are. We are in chapter 3 now, which is The Law of Human Progress, which is the name of this book, The Law of Human Progress. And we just read that the repeat of this line, they were even as we are, which is perhaps the whole purpose of studying history is to understand this. Let's just start reading. George writes, now, warfare is yes, well, let's not just jump right in. We just established that association, inequality is the formula for the law of human progress, or that's the claim from George. Then he goes on. Warfare is the negation of association, the separation of men into diverse tribes. By increasing warfare, thus checks improvement, while in the localities where a large increase in numbers is possible without much separation, civilization gains the advantage of exemption from tribal war, even when the community as a whole is carrying on warfare beyond its borders. Thus, where the resistance of nature, so that would be like us in America, all of our wars are on other people's lands far away. Thus, where the resistance of nature to the close association of men, well, other than our Civil War and the Revolutionary War and the Mexican-American War, but for a long, long time, they've been far away. Thus, where the resistance of nature to the close association of men is slightest, the counterforce of warfare is likely at first to be least felt, and in the rich plains where civilization first begins, it may rise to a great height, while scattered tribes are yet barbarous. And thus, when small, separated communities exist in a state of chronic warfare which forbids advance, the first step to their civilization is the advent of some conquering tribe or nation that unites these smaller communities into a larger one, in which internal peace is preserved. Where this power of peaceable association is broken up either by external assaults or internal dissensions, the advance ceases and retrogressions begins. Retrogressions begins. Maybe a typo. But it is not conquest alone that has operated to promote association and by liberating mental power from the necessities of warfare to promote civilization. If the diversities of climate, soil, and configuration of the Earth's surface operate at first to separate mankind, they also operate to encourage exchange and commerce, which is in itself a form of association or cooperation, operates to promote civilization, not only directly but by building up interests which are opposed to warfare, and dispelling the ignorance which is the fertile mother of prejudices and animosities. And so of religion, though the forms it has assumed and the animosities it has aroused have often sundered men and produced warfare. Yet it has at other times been the means of promoting association. Religion. Two-edged sword. A common worship has often, as among the Greeks, mitigated war and furnished the basis of union, while it is from the triumph of Christianity over the barbarians of Europe that modern civilization springs. Had not the Christian Church existed when the Roman Empire went to pieces, Europe, destitute of any bond of association, might have fallen to a condition not much above that of the North American Indians, or only received civilization with an Asiatic impress from the conquering scimitars of the invading hordes, which had been welded into a mighty power by religion, which, springing up in the deserts of Arabia, had united tribes separated from time immemorial, and thence issuing, brought into the association of a common faith a great part of the human race. Yes, if it so had there not been a Christian church when the Roman Empire fell, then the conquering people who had themselves been united by a common faith could have leveled the Western civilization to uh, maybe something like the North American Indians, or absorb them, maybe. Is there like a rumbling in my mic? Looking over what we know of the history of the world, also side point, at this time, they did not know about the Greek Klerotherion and Greek voting discs and the Greek boule and sortition, the forming of legislative bodies by the drawing of lots, which is not really relevant to his discussion here. Well, it is a custom of a peoples that ensures a kind of equality in association. Definitely a valuable piece of social technology. Social technology being Samo Bruja's preferred term. Anyway. Looking over what we know of the history of the world, we thus see civilization everywhere springing up, where men are brought into association, and everywhere disappearing as this association is broken up. Just to show this, the Aristotle Constitution scroll. So it was discovered. Discovery in 1879. As George was writing this, the Corpus Aristotelicum was discovered in 79, published in 80, but that was all in not English. It was purchased in Egypt by an American missionary in 1890. Then it went to the British Museum. Published in the editions in the Greek. Oh, it doesn't say when the English translation was. Anyway, and then the Clarotarion. They discovered the Clarotarion and the Clarotaria plural in 1930s in Athens. And then the Greek bronze voting discs. I don't know if they have a term. Do these have a fancy name? Bronze ballot discs. I don't know. I guess they don't have a fancy name. When were these discovered? The following 3 pages use this page. English ballot. Oh. They're just shown on the Greek ballot. Wonder. Alright, back to George. We thus see civilization everywhere springing up, where men are brought into association, and everywhere disappearing as this association is broken up. Thus the Roman civilization spread over Europe by the conquest which ensured internal peace, was overwhelmed by the incursions of the northern nations that broke society again into disconnected fragments. And the progress that now goes on in our modern civilization began as the feudal system again began to associate men in larger communities, and the spiritual supremacy of Rome to bring these communities into a common relation as her legions had done before. As the feudal bonds grew into national autonomies and Christianity worked the amelioration of manners, brought forth the knowledge that during the dark days she had hidden, bound the threads of peaceful union in her all-pervading organization, and taught association in her religious orders, a greater progress became possible, which, as men have been brought into closer and closer association and cooperation, has gone on with greater and greater force. But we shall never understand the course of civilization and the varied phenomena which its history presents, without a consideration of what I may term the internal resistances or counterforces which arise in the heart of advancing society, and which can alone explain how a civilization once fairly started should either come of itself to a halt or be destroyed by barbarians. The mental power, which is the motor of social progress, is set free by association, which is what perhaps it may be more properly called an integration. Society in this process becomes more complex, its individuals more dependent upon each other. Occupations and functions are specialized. Instead of wandering, population becomes fixed. Instead of each man attempting to supply all his wants, the various trades and industries are separated. One man acquires skill in one thing, and another in another thing. So, too, of knowledge, the body of which constantly tends to become vaster than one man can grasp, and is separated into different parts, which different individuals acquire and pursue. So too, the performance of religious ceremonies tends to pass into the hands of a body of men specially devoted to that purpose, and the preservation of order, the administration of justice, the assignment of public duties, and the distribution of awards, the conduct of war, etc., to be made the special functions of an organized government. In short, to use the language in which Herbert Spencer has defined evolution, the development of society is, in relation to its component individuals, the passing from an indefinite, incoherent homogeneity to a definite, coherent heterogeneity. The lower the stage of social development, the more society resembles one of those lowest of animal organisms which are without organ or limbs, and from which a part may be cut and yet live. The higher the stage of social development, the more society resembles those higher organisms in which functions and powers are specialized, and each member is vitally dependent on the others. I think most of this text is I don't know, this whole part of the book is a little bit drawn out and could be stated a little more succinctly, but I don't think these sentences are quite as dense and confusing as others. I don't know. This process of integration, of the specialization of functions and powers as it goes on in society, is, by virtue of what is probably one of the deepest laws of human nature, accompanied by a constant liability to inequality. All right, now we have to talk about something. So, what is this deep law of human nature that is that creates this accompaniment? Let's see. I do not mean that inequality is the necessary result of social growth, but that it is the constant tendency of social growth if unaccompanied by changes in social adjustments. And these social adjustments, which, in the new condition that growth produces, will secure equality. I guess if I were to sort of guess, if you imagine everyone having absolutely nothing, and then everybody goes out and works and comes back, by the end of the day, there will be a variation of how much each person was able to bring back from their berry picking or whatever. And so this, in some sense, would be inequality. And then the question is, if this is repeated every day, is there a general tendency? I would expect if you could only pick berries, given that you had no other technology, the storing up of berries wouldn't be wouldn't be something you could do. So at best, you could like some people who are able to pick berries a lot faster than others. If there were no other forms of gathering wealth, well, they would just pick as much as they wanted and just be done earlier than the other people. I guess you always have leisure or just not working, as if you prefer that. It's very weird to think about a society that I just said there's no other form of labor available. So it's not like you could get done early and then do some other productive thing. Um, and also, like, as soon as you have something else that you would want that requires any form of labor, you're inventing specialization of labor. Um, where, like, you know, I could pick berries and then when I come back give you some berries if you went and wrote some funny cartoons because I want to read. I can pick enough berries for both of us, but I want some funny cartoons. Anyway. So let's see what George says this inequality comes from. I mean, so to speak, that the garment of laws, customs, and political institutions which each society weaves for itself is constantly tending to become too tight as the society develops. I mean, so to speak, that man, as he advances, threads a labyrinth in which, if he keeps straight ahead, he will infallibly lose his way, and through which reason and justice can alone keep him continuously in an ascending path. Okay, that's not what I thought we were going for. This also sounds, I thought he was criticized this exact idea from, I thought Herbert Spencer? The idea that the laws and customs become a cake that solidifies, or I don't know. He definitely fought against the idea of hereditary progress that we're just like having kids that are smarter, better, faster, stronger, and that societal or species progress is just the slow incremental progress of heredity of he says it's with starts and fits and starts or whatever. You know, each society has to crumble and then the other ones start up just about from the bottom. Let's read one more paragraph. For while the integration which accompanies growth tends in itself to set free mental powers to work improvement, that's right, mental power is the only thing that brings about actual improvement. There is, according to George, there is both with increase of numbers and with increase in complexity of the social organization a counter tendency to set up to the production of a state of inequality which wastes mental power and as it increases, brings improvement to a halt. All right, well, I'm going to end there, and we'll have to all think about what we think this other tendency is. What could this possibly say? I don't know. Come back next time.